Hey guys, welcome to my part 3 on my top 25 favorite classics of all time. So this time we're gonna focus on the top 10. We're gonna go from 10 to 1 and let's start. So now we reach number 10. And number 10 is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. So this cover, guys, this cover is the cover of the BBC series. Funny story, I bought a very beautiful copy of War and Peace, like with a beautiful cover and a beautiful edition, but it wasn't the translation I wanted, because I read Anna Karenina before I read War and Peace, and Anna Karenina I read with the translation of, I don't remember their names, but they're two people, and the one that I bought was not translated by those two people, so it was like I was reading someone else, not Tolstoy. It was so different, and I didn't like it. So I went ahead and I found this one for cheap, for very cheap on the internet, and it was translated by those two people. And I don't know what to say about War and Peace that haven't been said already. It is a masterpiece. It is 1,000 pages, and it's the story, the war part is the story of when Napoleon invaded Russia and failed terribly, and the three main characters are Natasha, Andre, and Pierre, and I don't know, their conversations, it's like the most intelligent people talking about philosophy and life and the soul and what comes next after death, and it's amazing. I prefer the peace parts more than the war parts, because it has a lot of military strategy and stuff like that, and I liked it because I got introduced to a lot of history through that. But the peace parts were where this book shined for me. Just love Pierre. He's the best in this book, and I don't know what to say about War and Peace. It's just it's uber classic. It's I don't know what to say about War and Peace. Just read it and find out. So War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Well, Prince, so Genoa and Lucca are now just family estates of the Buonapartes. Yep. Now we go to number 9, which is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I remember reading this book and just being in a state of awe, like, for a week. It's a dystopian future in which books are banned. Not some books, all books are banned. And if you have a book in your house, your whole house gets burned down. So in this situation, in this dystopian future, the firefighters they don't stop fire, they create fire, and they go around looking for books to burn. And you can't have a book in your house, because if you have a book in your house, your whole house is going up in flames. And the government doesn't want you to read because it doesn't want you to get smart and question their decisions. And they pump you up with futile things like reality TV and all things like makes me think of Instagram and Facebook and reality TV and just things that numb your mind. And the government pumps you up with that, and everyone is like in a state of numbness and just going through their lives without questioning anything. But one day, one of these firefighters called Guy, I think his name is Guy Montague, I don't remember. He starts to question, because he talks to a girl who is 17 one day as he's walking the streets, and this girl kind of talks some sense into him, and he kind of starts thinking about it, and he starts questioning what he's doing. Why is he burning all these books? And he starts getting curious, and he wants to read these books and see what's inside them. And it's just phenomenal. It's I love books about books, and this one is a fantastic example, and I love it to bits. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. It was a pleasure to burn. That's iconic. It is. Number 8 is also a book about books in a way. It's Matilda by Roald Dahl, the girl who could not get enough books. So this book is about Matilda, who has the worst parents in history. They're terrible. And she finds solace in her teacher, who is a sweet young woman who urges her to read and to get informed. And she lives in the library and reads a bunch of books, and it's just such a heartwarming story about this girl who is so fantastic, and you want to be her. And she's just a child, and she's so intelligent and ahead of her time. And the hijinks with Miss Trunchbull's Mrs. Trunchbull is the principal of the school where she studies, and she's like the devil. And I don't know, it's so fun to read. It's a delight, and it has won my heart from the first moment I laid eyes on it. And I love this book so much. This is Matilda by Roald Dahl. The Reader of Books. It's a funny thing about mothers and fathers. I've always loved this first sentence. I don't know why, but I've always loved it. Number 7 is I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith. This is also a children's book in a way. It's about a girl called Cassandra, and she lives in this dilapidated castle with her sister and her father and stepmother. And her father is a writer, but he hasn't had a hit in a bunch of years, so they have like a lease of this castle, which is like crumbling apart, and they live there. They're very poor, they almost don't have food, and what Cassandra does is write and write and write and write, and she has a bunch of diaries, and what she does is capture everything to perfection in her diaries, in her writing. So that's why the book is called I Capture the Castle, because she captured the castle with perfection. And in the story, the people who own the castle kind of come back from the US, I think. No, yeah, because this book also has amazing descriptions of the English countryside. It's so beautiful. And they come back and start to get to know Cassandra and her family, and they don't know if they're gonna keep the lease of the castle, and it's a whole thing. But it's one of those books where it's very character driven, and every character in this book has so much life. And I remember after I finished reading this book, I just lied down, and for 2 hours I just kept thinking about the characters, each one of them. Like, they were so neatly drawn and so beautifully written. And I love that this book ended in like not a cliffhanger, but not neatly ended, and it gives you fuel for imagination of what's to come. And it's just perfect. It's lovely to read this book. And I read this book because I heard it was one of J.K. Rowling's favorite books, but now J.K. Rowling is like the worst person in the world, apparently, because I'm not gonna go into it, but she's right about this book. At least this, yes. Now we go to I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. I love that this came with newspaper article review of the book when it came out. It's so old and it's still holding up so well. I love this copy. Let's go. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. I love that she starts with just writing, because that's the whole point of this book. It's to capture everything in her diary. So we are in number 6, and number 6 is 1984 by George Orwell. So this is where the phrase Big Brother is watching you, where it comes from. Big Brother is the government, and it's watching you at all times. In this book, you don't have privacy. It's a dystopian future in which you don't have privacy at like 1 second in your life. Your place have cameras everywhere. You can't do anything without the government knowing. And there's the thought police, which I think is like genius, where there's this police that can arrest you for thinking things against the government, like, so it's a classic. It's amazing. It's very eerie to read because it's claustrophobic. It's very claustrophobic because the character in this book also starts to question the government, but he has to do it in a very sly and very careful way, because he can be arrested for anything and be tortured and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's an ode to privacy, to having the government pause off your life and your day-to-day life. And I don't know, it's a classic for a reason. Big Brother is watching you at all times. Now we go to 1984 by George Orwell. It was a bright cold day in April and the clocks were striking 13. This is kinda already sensational because it goes to the fact that the clocks are analog already and not the old kind, so it's already in the future. It's cool as heck. Number 5 now. My favorite book, number 5, is A Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. So this is so dear to my heart, so dear. I remember when I read this book, let me say what it's about if you don't know. I don't know how you can't not know, but it's a story, a real story of this girl called Anne who lived in Holland, and she had to go into hiding during the Second World War because she was a Jewish person, and they were taking all the Jews and putting them into concentration camps. So when the letter telling Margot, her sister, and Anne to go to the concentration camp, her father had made this plan to make up a hiding place for their family, and he owned this jam factory, and in the attic of the jam factory they made a hiding place. Like, the door is a shelf of books, so you don't think there's a door there, and it's such a tiny place, and they had to live there for so long, and the factory still worked, and there were workers there during the day, so they couldn't walk or talk or make any noise because they would hear that there were people in the attic and they could be found. So only at night they could like walk around and talk and do their things. And they were there, so there was Anne's family, which was Margot, Anne, her mother and her father. There was another family with a mother and father and a son called Peter, and a dentist. So all these people stayed in like this tiny hiding place, and for so long. And I just think about now where we are in lockdown because of the COVID, and how we're so lucky in a way, because we get to go out, and we get to walk around freely in our houses. And I don't know, if you compare it to what Anne was going through, it's like a breeze. I'm not saying COVID is good or anything, don't get me wrong, I'm just comparing. But so she heard in this diary, it's awesome because it starts before she goes into hiding, so it has the process of herself going into hiding. So Anne heard it in a Jewish radio show that if anyone is going through segregation, stuff like that, to document it, to put it into writing or take pictures and do things for the future to see, and to document it. And she took it to heart, and she said that in her diary. So the fact that it was published after her death is not like something her father did out of her consent. She actually wanted her diaries to be published. And the sad thing is that all of the people in the hiding place, they were found and they died, all of them except Otto, Anne's father. So it's a heartbreaking novel. It's not a novel. I remember because she doesn't know she's gonna get arrested, so the last entry of this diary is just a normal daily entry, and then there goes like a few spaces, and the book says Anne's diary ends here. And I just fell to pieces and cried for like half an hour, just thinking about what she had to go through after that, and the unfairness of it all. And the thing is, this girl started writing this diary when she was 13, and she died at 15. And the brilliance and the knowledge and intelligence she had at that age is astounding. And the things she wrote to this day are repeated, and her museum to this day is packed full of people just wanting to get a glimpse of the hiding place. When I went to Amsterdam, I spent 2 hours in the freezing cold in the line to get to see the museum. And guys, it's so tiny. I don't understand how so many people lived in that space, and I don't understand how anyone could have betrayed them, and how can anyone be so cruel. It's just, it was a out-of-body experience for me visiting her museum. And I remember when we went outside of the hiding place, and there's this museum with the actual diaries, because it wasn't one notebook. She had like various notebooks, and there's the real ones there, and I just started like tearing up and crying, and I looked around and nobody was crying. Everybody was just having fun and taking pictures and just having fun, and I was like just, I don't know, just, I love this girl. I just, this is an amazing chunk of history, and everyone should read this. Everyone should read this. I love Anne Frank with all my heart. Never having met her, I just adore her. I can't say enough for this diary. It's heartbreaking, but so important and worth it. And yeah, this is my first cherished copy of Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, and I don't want to open it because it's sealed pretty tightly, and I'm just gonna say the first sentence. It's 12th June 1942. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Love you, Anne. So we go now to number 4, and number 4 is in a very high shelf, and I don't have my chair here and I can't get it, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna put a picture here. It's A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess, and I think it will always be on my top 5 because of the use of language. I hated the movie, which is not so bad because I read in the introduction that Anthony Burgess also did not like the movie, so okay. I am not very fascinated with the story of A Clockwork Orange, which is about Alex and his gang of bad people who go around the city just doing bad things and raping people and beating homeless man, and it's terrible. They are terrible people, and then the government has this experiment done on Alex that makes him have no free will, and it's like if he imagines something bad, a very bad reaction in his body physically happens. Like if he imagines raping someone, he throws up, or they make experiments so that happens. And Anthony Burgess kind of explains that in the book. You get the feeling that he's saying that that's not right because it takes the free will of the person. I mean, you're supposed to punish these people, not take their free will, because now Alex has no free will. He can't do the things he wanted to do anymore. So it's a conversation about that, about free will, and the lengths the government would go to fix people like Alex. And the thing I love about A Clockwork Orange is the language, the way Anthony Burgess takes the English language and just makes it his own. I've never read any book like this that used language in his own way. Like, I've never seen that before. Like, he makes up his own slang with, like, using a little bit of Russian nomenclature. He kind of makes his own slang, and the way people speak and the way people talk in this book is completely bonkers. And the way he narrates the book is also individualistic. It's something I've never read before. It's taking English and just pulling it apart and doing things you couldn't think the English language could do. And that's why I love this book so much, is because of the way it is written. It is so intelligent and I love it. So the first sentence in A Clockwork Orange is, "What's it going to be, eh?" And then it goes, "There was me, that is Alex, and my three droogs, that is Pete, George, and Dim, Dim being really dim, and we sat in the Korova milk bar, making up our resolutes what to do with the evening. A flip dark, chill winter bastard, though dry." So now we go to the top 3. I think people who watch these videos of mine know, but anyway. Number 3, we go with Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. So Anna Karenina is the love of my life. Actually, Levin, which is one of the characters, is the love of my life. It's about Anna, who is the main character, and she is in a loveless marriage. She is married to a very important person in government, but she's not happy. She's trapped in a loveless marriage, and then she meets Count Vronsky and she falls in love, and it's about their love story with Count Vronsky, and that's a facet of it. And the other facet is Levin, and Levin trying to find himself, trying to introspectively, how many times have I said that word today, find who he really is, and also his love story with Kitty. And I just love the way Tolstoy can capture people's souls with so little text. You know, he is like a master of literature, because I love that. I mean, their books are behemoth. His books are behemoths, but each chapter is very short, and he doesn't, I mean, I don't know what it is that he does that with just like 5 words you understand completely what this person is feeling. And he's like amazing at that. And it's a tragedy. This book is a tragedy in the case of Anna, and she deals with a lot of paranoia, and I think she has depression too. And paranoia is a very, very constant symptom in depression, and it's just this poor woman trying to find happiness in her life and failing. And I just love the way the characters are written. I love the way the story is told. I just love that Tolstoy can make these like tiny phrases mean so much, but he also can expand a second into 6 pages. Like, I won't spoil it, but there's a scene where a character regrets, and they only have a second to regret, and in this second it's like 6 pages of what's going through the mind of the person who's regretting in this 1 second. And it's like amazing. It's perfection. It's perfect. So this is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy in the same edition of Great Expectations. And you see, I just did a test with my nail, and I don't know, these are not the best. They look so good, but they won't hold up for much time, I think. Look how beautiful. Okay, let's go to the first sentence. This one is iconic and I remember. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Yep. That one is iconic. So number 2 is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So this is a very well-known classic about 2 characters who really don't like themselves at first. This book was, when she started writing it, it was called First Impressions because the first impressions were terrible. So it's about Mr. Darcy and Mr. Darcy right here, and Elizabeth Bennet. So Mr. Darcy is a very rich and prideful person, and Elizabeth is also she's like middle class, but she's very prideful also and prejudiced of Mr. Darcy and his richness. And it's a bunch of miscommunications throughout the novel between Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, and they go through so many ups and downs to finally find a stable moment in this novel. And it's my favorite love story. No, it's not. It's my second favorite love story, and it is beautiful. And as I said, everything Jane Austen puts herself to comes up golden. And especially in this book, her witticisms, her sarcastic tone like comes up very often, and it's very fun to read. Yeah, Pride and Prejudice is amazing. This is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Which also has the very iconic first sentence. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a great fortune must be in want of a wife. And so it begins. And in first place, number 1, we have, I don't know if you can tell, this is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So this is my favorite book of all time. Jane Eyre is about a governess. First, she has a very terrible childhood. She is an orphan, and she gets to go live with her aunt, who is terrible to her, and puts her in this boarding school that is terrible. And there's this scene that always stuck in my mind. that it was so cold in this boarding school that when they woke up they would have to wash their faces, but the basin with the water was frozen, so they had to break the ice and get the water and wash their faces. And I'm like, oh my god. And so she grows up and she becomes a governess, and she puts an advertisement, and she is hired by this mysterious man called Mr. Rochester, who has a adopted daughter called Adele, who only speaks French, and Jane happens to speak French, so she becomes a governess. But things are not what they seem in this house. Mr. Rochester is very rich. It's a very big house, but it's a gothic setting, and Jane is always hearing things and seeing things and thinking there are ghosts everywhere, and there are mysteries abound. And I'm not gonna spoil anything, but this is my favorite love story. And it's not just that, it has so much commentary on women's rights and feminism, and what's it like to be a person and have feelings, and no matter what class you are in life, if you're born rich or poor. And it's just fantastic, and it's my favorite novel, my favorite love story, my favorite everything. I don't know what else to say. Yep, this is number one. Jane Eyre is number one. I really want to reread this book also this year. I hope I get to do that. And that's it. Those were my 25 favorite classics of all time. I'm sorry, I think this video is gonna be like very long. I talked a lot, but I really hold these books dear to my heart, and they really are my favorites. And I hope this year to read a lot more classics, because I've been reading a lot of YA and poetry, so classics is not something I'm reading a lot this year, but it's just the middle of the year, so I'm gonna try to read more classics from now on. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you very soon. Have a very good day, an awesome week. Bye bye.